Hello, hi. Hi, my name is Evin and I am head of communication here at the museum, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this artist talk with Ahmed Umar, one of the 4 nominated artists for Lorck Schive Kunstpris. We are very grateful that this year's talks are done in collaboration with Trondheim Academy of Fine Art, and that today's talk is moderated by Nabil Ahmed, which is an artist and professor at the Academy. I'm just inform you that the talk is streamed and will be made available at our YouTube channel afterwards. And after the talk, there will be room for questions. And then I will give the floor to you.
Great, thanks very much. Welcome everybody. It's really great to see you here. We met just a little while ago and had a little chat together, and we haven't made an expansive plan, but it's more of a conversation, and there are certain things that we want to cover. But just to reiterate again, right, we want to give as much time as possible to questions, and so that we can have a discussion together, you know, around the very important and timely questions that are raised in Ahmed's work. You know, with this larger body of work that you know he's bringing, but also specifically to the work that's sort of presented here. And I hope you have all had a chance to see and experience the work, which is over on the other side. And also there was this amazing performance, twice, right, that you carried out, that took place during the opening of the exhibition. So I sort of have a very short prompt, and I want to kind of give Ahmed the floor to really walk us through and tell us a little bit more about particularly the work that's presented here. By what I mean with timely and urgent questions, and this is not hyperbole or in the abstract, right? Ahmed's work, I think, again, you know, it's actually, I didn't come to this meeting knowing, you know, having known Ahmed's work that well, but I want to actually see it as a really positive thing, where it feels that this could be the beginning of this exploration and this conversation. So the works are, I mean, his work is, from what is presented here, dealing with questions that have to do with queer rights, but also with this exchange of cultures and identity and a kind of personal journey, and all of these things that we may all relate to, right? So, but I think with the term "the third," I was thinking about what this term sort of means for me a little bit, you know. And I come from Bangladesh, from Dhaka, and Ahmed is from Sudan, and you lived in Saudi Arabia as well. Yeah. The term "the third" isn't only about, I mean, as you describe it, it's about, it's a Sudanese Arabic word that means sort of like an effeminate boy or man.
Yeah, it's a slur that is used to insult boys that are interested in women activities. So it's the third of the girls.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a third is also, you know, for me, you know, the third world, right? The third world project. You know, the history of the non-alignment movement, right? You know, this idea of the third way, you know, which was to go, you know, neither the Indonesian foreign minister at the beginning of the Bandung conference in the 50s, right, which sort of brought together sort of the beginning of the non-alignment movement, you know, sort of said the third way is not to go either the way of the two superpowers, but to go in a new direction, right? A third is also something that's sort of, minor, but nevertheless, has the potential to change things and for us to sort of pay attention to them. So this was sort of, some things that I was sort of thinking about, in kind of relating, not only the questions of the specificity, right? And we must pay attention. I urge you to pay attention, to every little detail of the show, because it combines the performative with the objects that are sort of placed there, right? A kind of performance around a wedding celebration, but also in that sense to pay attention to the specificity of it, but also the fact that we can sort of experience it here, right? And this is something that actually crossed my mind during the performance, that it sort of took us to a place, and I was telling Ahmed before that for me it wasn't only a wedding celebration, but that day was Eid al-Fitr, so it's like the holy kind of, it's our festival for Muslims, or holiday after the end of month of fasting. So it was kind of like for me my first queer Eid, which was very cool. But moving on, I just wanted to ask you then to share with us here, walk us through through this work a little bit. Why did you make it? And I know that the performative element was actually, you said it was sort of one of the hardest things to do, but also to learn the dance, right? I mean, it seemed effortless to me, and I think everyone was there. But it would be great to hear in your own words what was going through your head.
Yeah, it is a tradition that is an essential part of the rituals of wedding in my region in the middle of Sudan. And the traditional weddings are at least 7 days, 7 days with parties on each side, the groom side and the bride side. And there will be the main wedding night, and the day after, in the morning, then the ceremony of the bridal dance happens. It is for me a pure Sudan, a Sudan that has not been affected by the waves of extremism, the waves of shame around body and women bodies, and also masculinity, femininity, our roles in the society. So for me, it inhabits a lot of the questions that I'm always very concerned about, and it's supposed to show the bride's fitness, the bride's beauty, agility, fertility, and it is also one of the few nights or few celebrations where the bride is completely the main focus. She's the only focus of the whole celebration, and the groom would be just in the side. And I find this very beautiful that, she would own the whole celebration. And for me, it was my personal relationship with it is seeing my mom dances, because it's a dance that, although in the wedding ceremony, the bride would have a set of songs that are curated only for her, and of course the songs are taken from the popular songs that are around and some classical, but they are curated according to her qualities and a trainer would train her for a while, 3 months in most of cases. And women in general dances this dance at home. So I saw my mom dance it and my sisters and so, but um, it happened that my family started to be a little bit more and more conservative because we live in Mecca, and also before moving to Mecca there was a movement that was started by the state that they wanted to they called it a renaissance, Islamic renaissance in Sudan, where they started openly denouncing most of our traditions and adopt a very conservative take on very Sudanese things. The Sudanese, the bridal dance includes extreme amount of pride about body, and a body that is also revealed. Like the bride dances with the same costume that you see in my performance here. She dances topless, and that was very okay. The whole village would be invited to the celebration, and there were also some openness for queerness, that men would sing for the brides, men would teach them as well. But all that in the last 45 years started to decline drastically. It started to be from my grandmother, for instance, who danced topless in front of her whole village, to now the dance being a rarity. Like it's just a bride who is really invested in the dance who would do it, and it became also a women exclusive event. Only the bride, the groom, and maybe the brothers of the bride would be attending it. I was also I love dancing. I've been always put music for me, and I will take the space. But I was not allowed to attend it when first signs of puberty started to show. And I remember one of the in the events of my the cousin of my mom, she danced, and I was kicked out, and I sneaked from the balcony and watched the dance. And I never, from a very early age, I was very confused about the idea of being. I've heard a lot of like, you're a man, you should do this. You're not a woman, you should not do this. Dancing, moving my body, which is the way that I express myself. I was very limited from doing it, and I would say I saw myself as a bride. I wanted to be carrying this legacy as well with my sisters. So the thought or the spark started from that very young age, but I kept thinking about it for a while, because the consequences of it being public, it can be not exactly what I need right now. I'm a fighter and everything, but I chose to not really come very public with it, especially because of the situation of the war in Sudan at the moment, and my family being in the middle of the war zone. So it came in a very particular time. but I'm very happy that I have jumped this wall that I have always had, that I wanted something. I wanted to express my pride. I wanted to express my femininity, masculinity, or whatever in this dance. And also, like, there was a lot of challenges in finding someone to train me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you had to travel to Cairo.
Yes, I had to travel to Cairo. I found someone who accepted to train me first, and then it was too much for her because the amount of exposure that I can bring with me afterwards, being also queer and open about it, that is already a very negative stamp in my records with the Sudanese people. And her being based in Egypt, like, I mean, I have the privilege that most or almost all of my friends doesn't have, which is a passport that is not Sudanese. So so she feared for her safety. It would have been very dangerous for her. And then a friend of mine took over the dance, and that's Asara, that some of you have seen in the opening. And she taught me that. So first I had to deal with just the idea of standing in front of people, half naked, and presenting something that is as holy as the bridal dance. It's a great responsibility, and also dealing with my own just stage fright, being looked at fright. So I'm frightened right now, but it's not like as in the dance. But yeah, it is. It has been a very hard journey. Also, like, dancing properly, I wanted to do the proper thing as to much of my ability. Like, dancing, the bride would be kept at home and fed so she can have some curves, and that's what I have done with quick lunch and a lot of chocolate, so I can gain some weight, so I would not look like a stick dancing, and also, like, showing the dance in a body that is very male, typical body, and trying also to transfer this femininity that the dance has is also, it was quite challenging.
I mean, we've sort of covered, or we've talked a little bit about the performative element, but just connecting to your, broader work. I mean, there's this beautiful photo of you there, also with, the jewelry, and maybe tell us. Be nice to hear a little bit about, the objects that are sort of presented, right? I mean, of course, they're you didn't make them.
I made some of them. I made some of them.
Yeah, because that's. I mean, I was absolutely, fascinated, right, by this one of your recent works, right, where you sort of, combined kind of everyday objects, or from your hair to, dust from a pharaoh's, tomb, or, I mean, this wide range of materials, right? But then to give them a kind of form that nevertheless, is about your, in relationship to your body, right? So, and I guess that was part of the performance, this relationship to the jewelry, to the objects, and of course they seem to be, characters of some sort, right? So, maybe it would be nice to hear a little bit about, the relationship to the objects, right? That are, of course, not the same when they're sort of presented in a display.
Yeah, I mean, I have been thinking about the dance for years and years. It did not yeah, it wasn't just because of Lorck Schive, but I started the collection of the costume for many years, and I because the bridal dance on its traditional ways it's never held anymore, and the skirt that that is with leather fringes that used to be the what Sudanese women wear before. It's very hard to find. So I've been looking all over the traditional markets in Sudan until I found that one, the one with the shells in it, and some of especially the bangles they should be in gold, but this is not gold. So it's also part of the tradition is to show the wealth of your family by wearing the gold. And yeah, I've been looking for beads all over. I found the majority of the beads were actually I found in Egypt. These black coral, the red coral, and the gassis, which is this one that is very.
And is that the one that you're?
Yes,
wearing?
yes, yes, yes. That's what is traditionally worn. It's a glass beads that are very rare to find now, and you see also the how influences from outside of Sudan have also been included in our traditions, like in some of the necklaces you would find coins with Elizabeth, Queen of England, in gold, and the Sudanese tob, the red cloth that is actually inspired by the Indian sari, and it was also imported from there. And yeah, so a bride as well, like they would also manifest our connection to the pre-Islamic religions, like using amulets and so. So she would wear huge amulets in the middle and some amulets all over, so she would protect herself from the evil eye, and also the repetition of mashallah in the songs, and in the trainer who would tell everybody to say mashallah. So
I think your hype woman was amazing.
yeah, my
Yes.
trainer.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
The MC.
She's, that role,
yeah.
if I say a bit of that
Yeah.
role, is called the bride minister. So she would be in charge of everything, and giving the props to the bride, and taking care of that. She looks fantastic.
I want to go back a little bit again to the title, the other, right? I mean, as I'm sort of there's a couple of things you mentioned which really, also things that I've sort of thinking about and struck me, right? In a way, this shift between, this pre-Islamic and Islamic culture, between what is a national culture and the mix and the contamination from other places, right? And also this shift towards something that feels that perhaps has been kind of invented. There's this, I've forgotten the name of the author, but there's this Marxist historian, this book called, maybe some of you know this, the invention of tradition, right? And this is idea that a certain let's say a shift to something more conservative,
Mm.
is a kind of it's an invention, that's partly ideological, partly kind of fitting the political, sort of climate, right? So in the sense that, for instance, I mean, it felt very familiar to me, right? The performance, because I'm Bengali, and to give you an example, my name is Nabil, and that this is a Muslim name. It was given to me by a friend of my father's who was Lebanese. But my nickname, which I don't know if I should say this because it's only my family calls me this. Okay, here I will do it. Shabbir, right? I don't think anyone who knows me here knows me by this name. So we have this thing where at home, I'm Shabbir, but to the world, I'm Nabil. So, there's always this shift, right, between, what is a long kind of cultural life, that we have, and this, and certain kinds of Islam, that sort of shift. And these borders are never fixed, right? So it's almost like, the other, you, in the performance, is somehow, you're kind of bringing these worlds into a kind of focus, and somehow it is, simultaneously, very a very bold and subversive thing to do, I suppose, right? But at the same time, you're really not, I mean, you sort of said it, like it's pure, it's actually all of these things make up, our world, but, the shift to this more conservatism, right, is a kind of it's an invention of tradition, and in a way, sometimes we forget it, but in this case, you're sort of bringing this world into a kind of into being, like we were there, when we were there with you, even though it seemed also quite odd to be in this performance in Trondheim, I do want to come back to, why you came to Norway and, I mean, and what it means for you to be working as an artist in Norway and Oslo. But I'll keep that for a moment. But I wanted to maybe hear you a little bit about, this idea that, you're sort of bringing this into a kind of foreground, through this persona, which is simultaneously you, and not perhaps.
I mean, as for me, it's also like a reminder of who we are, because I'm maybe a little bit nostalgic about how Sudanese were, or how I want them to be, because there have been much more freedom and flexibility towards differences and ways of identification. And the tradition of not accepting the bridal dance is like established right now, because it became very something that especially men, grooms, they don't want it to be held. And in my family, that used to be like all our brides danced. It became something that almost none of them dances anymore. And it also a thing right now. It's a thing that that unites both feminists and extreme religious people, because feminists would see it as objectification of women, and religious people would say it's haram. It's to show a woman in this manner. So yeah, this is just my dream of a Sudan that is proud of its baggage, or the build-up of the traditions that that are beautiful and inclusive. So I want this kind of Sudan, not what I see today.
Of course, as you know, Sudan has been in the news again with the conflict sort of escalating and with it seems that it's not sure where it will go, right? You also came here as a refugee, right, to Norway. There's sort of two things that sort of it made me think, right? This notion of, I mean, as I was sort of mentioning to you before, just to sort of finish that thought, right? That, and I know that you also studied in the art school system here, right? We're sort of facing a time where it's not a. I can say this. I mean, I'm coming here to represent the Art Academy. And we are at a precipice, right? Because as of this year, international students have to pay a fee, right? So I did this little thought experiment with my students the other day, where we sort of sat around a circle. You know, there were several of us who were from other places, you know, and we sort of the thought experiment was you know. Now the three of you, because you came from outside the EU, now you'll sort of magically kind of disappear. And then now there's three more left. And then we continued, you know, there was another student who was, anyway, it ended up being there was only one Norwegian left. And everyone else, all of the rest of us had disappeared, you know. It just doesn't make for a great conversation with one person. So, and this notion, right, that, you know, that inclusivity, diversity, you know, if they are to be human rights, then we shouldn't have to pick and choose. That, you know, to be queer or gay in Norway is accepted, you know, but if you're coming here from as a black or brown person, right? Then from escaping conflict, right? Then you may not be accepted, right? So in that sense, I think, you know, I feel that, you know, and again, as I said, I'm only beginning to know your work, you know, but. That you've been here and consistently, right, you know, never losing, you know, yourself and your body, which has been also present, I think, throughout, you know, that you're still talking about these difficult issues, right? And I guess what does it mean to talk about difficult issues that may be difficult, you know, here in Norway, you know? So it's just to sort of open up this question a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in the last month, I have not been very much following up with everything that is happening around. But when I've heard that Norway is starting to will start to charge international students for studying here, yeah, this is like just taking a Kalashnikov and shooting your foot, or both of them. It's I think I mean, you just said it, like it would be just one person talking to themselves, like it's I believe what would keep the scene vibrant and alive is these discussions and this different backgrounds, and being here and telling stories that are, although they are very different from the common stories here, but connecting in different ways with the audience here is losing this chance to develop students' creativities is really sad. I don't know who would come up with that. I mean,
But
it's,
this is why I think that it's absolutely vital, that what the work you've been doing, it's not only it's been bringing these issues, right? I mean, to the foreground, and I feel that, very diverse works. Nevertheless, you're sort of keeping, again, this feels that, there's this, that you're kind of carrying them through. You're kind of a red line, through. But for instance, to be able to tell these stories that for example, about the massacre, that there was one work that I saw, right? But also, but then also about this work where you were photographing LGBTQ folks back in Sudan. I'm not sure whether they were diaspora or whether
they
were
were.
in Sudan.
It was in Sudan.
It was in Sudan,
Yeah.
right? So, to be able to really be able to talk and present these really tough topics, right? But nevertheless, in this language, this visual language that you're so developing, I mean, it's absolutely vital, in that sense, right? So,
And also, like, if I want to add something, that this has been possible because I studied here, because I experienced the contrast in ways of expression, and I was confronted, I wouldn't say confronted, but socialized, being together with students who have totally different ways of thinking about art and expressing their feelings through art. So I think what helped me a lot in my career is this confrontation with a total different culture, and having people who are interested about total different things than what I'm interested in and burning for. So finding ways that I can include them in my stories and they can include me in their stories, that has been, I think, one of the key things in my my artistic career. So losing that is just not good. Very not good.
I want to shift a little bit to, you mentioned this term storytelling, right? Number of times, and shifting a little bit back to, again, also we have some of our students from the Art Academy here, which is really great, and for us, of course, it's not just about making the final work, right? I mean, you described this beautiful process, right, which of course began a long time ago, about that led you to the markets, finding these the ensemble, right? But also took you to Cairo to learn the dance, right? But then, indeed, it started when you were young, when you're sort of not allowed to go, or you kind of sneaked in, or something like this. So, I guess I was thinking about the process of storytelling, right? Might think that storytelling is done through writing stories or making a film, but as an artist, with working, you're working across many mediums. Sculpture, one comes to mind, right? Among others. How do you imagine sort of trying to tell stories through, that's not limited to, let's say, one medium, about stories where, the things that you're trying to tell stories with are also part of the storytelling, as well as, let's say, narratives or histories?
I mean, maybe the reason of it is that I'm not specialized in any of the techniques that I'm working with. But yeah, back to the point of like being a foreigner student in a place that is like Norway. I wasn't aware of my stories and their importance until I was in a totally different environment. I mean, my stories are not unique. They are an everyday story for a lot of people who live in Sudan. I'm just an average person. So having this chance of being completely taken off where I am and being placed in a new place, I looked at my stories and I knew that my stories can be important. And the way of I don't master the art of speaking, but I can use my body. I can make sculptures, I can make just throw myself in a project and take all the feelings and feelings and the willing of communicating through this medium with a person who doesn't know what I've been through or what I'm trying. Communicating with someone who is completely unaware of my background. So it's I don't know, it's fun. It's fun to just. I don't have the feeling of mastering something, but I can like 3/4 half master something that allows me to communicate with people.
I mean, it's also a pragmatic approach, right? I mean, whatever it takes, to some extent, right? To be able to tell the story you want to tell, and to make that as inclusive and open as you can, I think this something is really really shines through, for me at least. I wanted to. I think this is maybe a good time to open up to those of you that are here. I'm sure you have some questions for Ahmed, so please.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for the performance last time. And I want to ask, because I think the first impression I went to that performance is the smell. So I think it's like every time if I smell that smell, it will trigger me of your performance. So can you tell us about what is that?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. There is a whole long and like important part of our traditions that is about perfumes. The bride actually would get part of her dowry, some kilos of sandalwood and perfume, like seeds that has like perfumes and aromas, and they would make this amazing scrubs and things that would make the bride smell nice for many years. That's very simple way of explaining it. But pardon my English right now, but yeah, sandalwood is a very important part of our traditions, and I meant to have the room filled with sandalwood, so you can see and smell the bride.
Just a quick thought that came to my mind with throwing a question is that I also feel that, yeah, this was a scene from a wedding, right? But you've also previously worked with funerals and with you know these sort of cultural, you know, moments, right? That really, yeah, I don't know, defines, you know, who we are and which are nevertheless kind of shared across cultures, right? So no, it was just sort of something that struck me, you know, that this is part of a bigger, you know.
And it's also like mentioning the funeral. That, I think what have connected both the bridal dance and the funeral was how I am defined by people. Like, because here a male, born male, I should not dance the bridal dance, but in the funeral, my father passed away when I was here, and I did not have oppholdstillatelse, or like a residency permit, so I can go and be at the funeral. And also our tradition is like they would bury people very fast, and what happened was that I was not informed that how ill he was, so I was not very prepared. And when the news came indirectly, as traditions applies, through male members from the Sudanese community. And when they told me about my father's passing, I started crying, and they immediately stopped me from crying and said, "You're a man, you should not cry." So I had this very long period of grief, because also as traditions applies, they started coming every day, bringing their food and socializing at my place. And it's a beautiful thing if you connect with these people, or if it's in your premises. But I was completely blocked from mourning my own father, and that has caused a trauma that lasted for many years. So I started working and creating my own ceremony to my father. And it has been a very emotional journey. And then I worked with my own funeral after hearing that from important people in my life that I am considered dead for them because I am gay, and growing up in Mecca and hearing that gay people, when they die, their bodies should not be buried among Muslims. They should be thrown in the desert to be eaten by vultures and rot. So I made my own sarcophagus as a very important pharaoh, because pharaohs, the kings and the queens, their sarcophagi, they were made with challenging materials like stones that would last for like ages or forever, let's say. So I made mine in ceramics, so it would stay for the longest. So yeah, but all of them were like about how people would define me and my resistance to I just want to be myself. I just want to dance and cry and love men. So yeah,
it's also very social, even though it seems to be maybe relating to or about you, but it's not. It's speaking to something much larger, something that we can all relate to in many different ways. Back over to you. I kind of hijacked that.
I started talking a lot, so
bit, yeah.
sorry.
Do you have some interest in inspiring the Sudanese community to be more accepting of diverse identity here, or is that something that is a sidebar to?
No, I mean, I'm put in this position of being considered an activist, and although my activism is just living my life and sharing it, and that for some people is something very very bad. So with the years, I got following, and I think this platform, although I'm not very comfortable with everything that implies that I have to share more parts of my life, but I see the benefit of it. So my dream, and I believe in dreaming and working for the dreams, then it will happen, that to have a Pride festival in 2030. Y'all are invited for the Nile Pride 2030. It happened in Norway. It will happen in Sudan as well. And I believe, yes, it's like 7.5, 8 years, but with internet, I think we can reach so far. And I believe with working intensely with campaigning and just like putting myself out. That's what I do with my profiles in social media. Just like, as they say, shove it in their throat that we exist, and I'm not interested in you. I'm not interested in your husband. I'm not interested in your wife. I'm interested in someone who loves me back. Let us live. So yeah, it is. I'm working with that. I tell you a little story. Like 2 years or 3 years ago, there was an activist who sadly took her life after the pressure and being in exile, as well. She was Egyptian, and a 15 years old kid. He sent me messages. He said, like, I'm gonna commit suicide. I cannot. My family, if they know, they will kill me. My boyfriend, or the guy that I love, he abuses me, and he's actually bullying me for being gay. I cannot. If they know, it will be the worst thing that can happen. I want to die. And I was talking with him for 5 hours, and he's still there now, and experiencing this. I would do everything that I can so someone would maybe have a better life. I had a better life because some people inspired me to continue living. I never ever thought that I would reach 30 when I was in Sudan. And 30 passed some few years ago. So yeah, it works. It works. I see that the dream is there. I'm gonna dance, and my dream about the Nile Pride is so, like, I get chills all the time, and I feel the music, and I feel the dance and the drums and the vibration of the drums, and how fun it is to be in the Nile Street, the main boulevard in Al Khartoum, and everyone around and everyone is happy. Some people would be unhappy. That's okay. That's on them. But yeah, it is. It is a dream that is going to happen in my lifetime. And yeah, be with us and witness, and come celebrate with us and dance.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, thanks. Yes. Any more questions?
Please. We still have about 5 minutes.
Mhm. Wait.
It made me think, though, about this vision that you have, this term that's sort of used in sort of social movement organizations, right? And another world is possible, right? We sort of experience it here with you, you know, that another Sudan is possible. And just like another Norway is possible, you know, so it's not limited to only one place, but it's you know what you do, you know, that through just being who you are and the work that you've been, you know, committed to doing, both as an artist, as an activist, about bringing these, you know, difficult questions to the table, but at the same time making them as open, as inclusive as possible, right?
Yeah, because the situation needs that. I mean, this is it's our lives. It is. I really find it sometimes kind of. I can't really process when I'm called, for instance, courageous. I'm just living my life. I'm fighting to live my life, and if it is something that we should do, is just like to think how to support, and how this person, why do we call them courageous while they just live? What is our duty in making someone average? I would be very happy if everybody is average. They don't have to fight for something. So it's a responsibility on each one of us. We all have like a share on that.
Well, thank you so much. For this really, you know, this generosity, right? I've really enjoyed, you know, this conversation. I hope you did too. I think we covered a lot, but yeah, I think the exhibition is up for some more time, and this is really a beautiful opportunity to experience that another Sudan is possible. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Yeah, and I also want to say that there will be some performances, so it's not only the two in the opening,
in
but
the
there will
flesh.
be,
Amazing.
yeah. So
Has that been announced?
I
haven't
not
seen
yet.
it in the. Yes, so I
It
hope.
will.
I
it
hope
will. Yeah.
it will be announced soon, so
Yeah,
we all know.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
well,
Thanks
thank you.
again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.